Hello, this is Danielle from Braille Rose Booktube. Welcome back to my channel. I've been meaning to put a video out recently. I've got 2 filmed that haven't been put out for various reasons. I think both times I tried to upload them I had a phone call or something has glitched the uploading process. But here I am again. Hopefully you'll see this video quite soon. But you should have at least 1 or 2 videos coming out soon. Hopefully today. Today being the 22nd of December, 3 days until Christmas. I'm so excited. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. This video is kind of inspired by the whole end of year videos, sort of themed things people have been doing on BookTube, where they discuss certain books each year. Books that have made them affected because they're the best books, the worst books, the most disappointing, the most exciting, all the various things. And I wanted to do one which is about books that made me emotional, books that made me upset, and made me cry. Because I saw Reagan from Peruse Project do it, and I thought, you know what, that's quite, not funny, but it's quite interesting, because all year I've been reading books upon books upon books and thinking, oh, hopefully this one will be exciting and I'll be happy while reading this, because it's been a hard year for everyone. And there's still been books that have made me feel emotional when I didn't necessarily want to feel emotional. Which is fine, because it's nice to feel something in a book, but it's still good to talk about it and say, okay, these books were great, but I felt something here. And I don't cry at books a lot, so I'm not going to do books that made me cry. I'm going to do books around 2020, just because I've got this list compiled a lot easily. I've got 69 books here that I have finished. I'm reading two books, 3 books currently, 2 in particular. Both of which make me emotional, which I would have mentioned, but they haven't finished them yet. They are The Nobody People by Bob Prohl, which is like a kind of book about racism and people who are prejudiced against queer people, racist people with multiple different races and diverse backgrounds, people who are racist towards them, and people who might, treat them as a negative minority. Disabled people, but the kind of additional premise here is that there are people with abilities that have resonated, and people are also seeing them as another minority group to deal with, as well as the queer people, the disabled people, and the people of colour. And I love this book because it's just talking so much about, like, in a really cool fiction setting, it's making you think about, okay, what's it like to be an ally for someone? Is it really good enough? It's not the same, there are limits to what we can do. I'm LGBT and disabled, and I can say that that's something that, I can relate to. And it's really interesting to read a book about different people's backgrounds with when they've been through all different things, as well as dealing with this new thing about having abilities and stuff, and how the society of America deals with that, which is not too good, and it leaves people in that small community to fight for things that they shouldn't have to fight for. And the other one I'm emotional for because it's the Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Laurie Nelson Spielman. It's about these 2 cousins, Luciana and Emilia, and their Aunt Paolina or Aunt Poppy, and they go to Italy to break a centuries-old curse on the second-born daughters in the Fontana family. And they all believe various degrees of believing that they are cursed because they're the second-born daughters and they can't find love. And Emilia doesn't really think she can find love. She just has her reasons. She doesn't feel like it. But Poppy, who's the aunt, is about to turn 80, and Luciana, the other daughter, also the other cousin, she was desperate to find love. So they go to Italy, despite other family members being unhappy about it, to break the curse. And the family bond in this book is just completely beautiful, and I just feel so emotional all the time. Those are just quick honorary mentions. I haven't finished them yet, but they're really good books. I also apologise, I have got a cold, I've got a headache, but I want to film because I feel like I need to film stuff because I really wanted to film this discussion. So I've finished 69 books so far. I will go more into my stats hopefully in another video, but I'm going to kind of flick through my books and just pick out the ones that make me emotional. So I'm not going to go into too much detail so I can fit as many books as I can. But yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go from like most recent to least recent, because that is how I look at things right now. Because I'm looking at my Goodreads, which is on my phone, which is plugged in, so it's there. Most recently was The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue, and I know this one won a lot of awards this year for historical fiction. This is about the kind of during the World War One or just after World War One, where people are dealing with the influenza pandemic, and a nurse, a doctor, and a young volunteer are all kind of working together to help these women on this on the maternity fever ward. And I picked this up thinking, oh, historical, it's won an award, it's going for best book of the year in that Goodreads Choice Awards. I thought, okay, it's interesting. It's about motherhood, and I seem to keep reading books this year for some reason, especially in November, that seem to feature mothers or midwives. And I had just finished a midwife book, so I was like, oh, you know what? It's about midwife, which is kind of ironic because I just finished this one. So let's pick up this one. Didn't realise it's pandemic themed, but it was. But it mostly focused on the mothers, on the nurses, and on the situation, and just the emotion of that situation and the helplessness of the situation. I was going through a really difficult time while reading this at the beginning of December. I actually found it quite a nice distraction from personal stuff in my own life, but it was emotional and I did cry. I was kind of just sat there like, oh God, no, what am I going to do? This is just too emotional, but it was really good and I loved it, and it was better than I thought. I almost DNF'd it. I almost went, you know what, sorry Apple Books, gonna have to return this one. Did not know there was a pandemic going on. I do not need this in my life. But it was so focused on the ward that I was fine. And it touched on the war veterans and the effect on them, and also the effect on women in the war. So really, really good. Before that, The Midwife Murders by James Patterson. This one made me emotional because it's about a midwife solving the cases of helping solve the police. Helping the mid. Should I just give up on this video right now and just hang up? End the video. I don't know what to say. Anyway, she is helping the police department solve some things going on in their hospital, which were some stabbing of a mother and some children kidnappings. And this girl, Lucy, who is the midwife in question, she's head midwife, she is a mum to a young boy. And she's like, you know what, I as a mum cannot bear to see this happening to other mums. So there was really, really good stuff going on for that feeling of her trying to help the situation and the shock of it all going on. Another thing I didn't expect was her brother at home, who she's not really seeing a great deal because she's at work in New York. Her brother in Virginia, I think it is, West Virginia, is a severe addict. So she's not only dealing with that, her father seems to be very ill, and her brother, who I think is a bit of a role model to her son, is an addict. Very severe addict. And that's something I don't particularly know much about. I obviously know about some things to do with drug addiction and things because I study a theatre degree where people kind of discuss topics with community work, so I understand some things. But it was so interesting reading from this point of view of this sister with her son, his nephew, sort of there, her mum, older, trying to cope with a terminally ill husband and a son who's 32 and basically so addicted that he's not functioning. And it was just really, didn't expect that. That was hard. I'm going to very briefly mention these. These are the Farmer's Daughter Mysteries by Peg Cochran. Didn't have much emotional stuff with that, but very good representation for what a widow and her feelings of dealing with her children and her obviously being a bit of an amateur sleuth, but also dealing with the lack of her husband supporting her and moving on and seeing her best friend marry, and it just kind of just made me think, oh, feel for you. Like, again, that's a topic I haven't really read much about in books. Okay, I'm looking through the list here, so I'm kind of remembering as I go backwards through the year. A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. I read this book because, I thought, Indian representation, 4 people living in a house together, a posh widow, again, widows coming up here, 2 tailors, and a student. They're going to find friendly family bonds that they didn't know they had. Firstly, this book goes right into these people's history of their families and how much time's evolved, their childhoods, everything like that. So part of me thought, okay, we're setting up here for what they've been through, and now here's what's going to happen. And I'm pushing and pushing through. It took me weeks and weeks. It's a big old chunk of a book. I'm thinking, okay, well, you know what? Keep on going, because, sorry about the dogs in the background. Because I'm sure at the end there's going to be this amazing family bond, and it's going to be really uplifting. And I've learned a lot about Indian history with the caste systems and different things going on. I realised it took me like 2 weeks to finish this book because it's just so thick and history heavy with like the stuff, and politics heavy and stuff. Kind of thought, don't think I needed this book right now, but it's quite good, so I'm not going to stop. The last 200 pages, I was like, you know what, I need to finish this book now. It's getting really good. I think it's going to go really well. I think it's going to be really happy at the end. Pushed through one night. Stayed up till 2:30 in the morning thinking I'm going to get a bit of a happy ending, or at least something resembling an emotionally positive outcome for these people. No. I was sobbing. I was absolutely sobbing. Just, if you want to cry, if you want to read generations of people's history, and some Indian culture, and some nice moments and everything, then feel free. But the ending of this is far from happy. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. It was very well written. The side characters in this book were very well written. But it is not a happy book. And I was not happy at the end. I'll just say that. Eleanor in Part by Rainbow Rowell. I know people have said lately that Rainbow Rowell's a bit something about her. I'm not sure what it is. I haven't heard much. I found this emotional because of Eleanor's background. I think they said that the Asian representation isn't very good, and I can't say that I know the answers to that because I don't know. But Eleanor's family background, abusive stepdad type thing, little kids that she's kind of been dumped with as part responsibility for, looking different because she's kind of covering up for what she's been through. I found that emotional. I think that most books in this list make me emotional. I have only skipped like 3, and that's because they were like little mysteries. Us by David Nichols, great BBC series. Very funny, very emotional, very heartwarming, but family breakups, family kind of adventures, father trying to reconnect with the son he's kind of become distant with and trying to save his marriage. It was just like, God, it's very emotional. This one didn't. That's good. Audiobook I listened to this year, One Night at the Call Centre by Chetan Bhagat. Another Indian fiction, so I thought that's why I picked up A Fine Balance not long after I finished this audiobook. And I thought, well, keep going with the Indian vibe here. Because I was enjoying reading about the Indian culture, and it was quite interesting reading this one, which was One Night at a Call Centre, which is more of a modern book, and looking back at the different one, which is more of a classic book. 6 people working at a call centre one night, and it's about young people and their stories. Each had a different story. A guy who felt like he wasn't good enough. A girl who wanted to be a model and wasn't good enough. A guy who kind of wanted to save the world and make change but didn't really have the ability to do that. A girl stuck in a marriage where she's kind of being used as a bit of a skin for the parents of the son. A girl with a difficult relationship with her mother. They've all got a different story to tell, and it was just really good to read that. And I felt uplifted at the end of this one, I must say, but it was still emotional. We're the Lost Wonder by Amy Harmon. Historical fiction about people taking the Oregon Trail. I didn't really know a huge amount about the Oregon Trail, so it was very interesting reading about that. And I even had a discussion with a friend about this recently because she's from America, so it was really good to just chat about that slightly. I didn't mention this book, but it's kind of good, like, when someone mentions the Oregon Trail now, the Western Trail, I'm a bit like, oh, God, that must have been awful. And the stories here, just, I don't know, it's just really emotional. Travelling, risk to everyone, backstories, again, kind of loss of husband, loss of parent, like, got quite a few different things in here. One of the best books this year, Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. LGBT book. Cameron, 1990s. Teenager finding out she's a lesbian or discovering her sexuality. Parents have died, so she kind of feels relieved she hasn't got to tell them about that, so she's dealing with their death. Aunt, who's like a serious Christian lady, goes, I found out you were with a girl, you disgusting little creature, now I'm going to go fix you. And sends her to some really creepy Christian, like, conversion camp. Oh my God. Reading this girl's feelings and her experiences, I felt like I learned from her, even though she's younger than me. I felt like I wanted to, like, just give her a hug and say, hey, 2020, you're going to be fine, honey. Like, I wanted to really just give this girl a hug. And just say, hey, look, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to take time, but it's going to get there. It's still not going to be perfect, but, like, there's going to be a bit of a better situation for LGBT people than there was back then. Still not perfect. There's still a lot of judgmental things going on about it. But, I just wanted to say to this girl, like, it's going to be okay, But I loved this book. It was one of my favourites this year. Toffee by Sarah Crossan. Book in verse. Older person with Alzheimer's or dementia. Young girl running from home when she's had abuse from her dad. She tries to find her stepmom but can't find her. And really beautiful book. To see more books. Ooh. Not this one. I'm getting back to the fantasy stuff now, which I read more at the beginning of the year. Which I felt for more. Fall Easy, which is a Seals Undone book 10. It's a romance by Zoe York. Follows Julie and Jason is a chief in the Navy SEALs. Again, that's something I didn't know a great deal about, so reading them, dealing with the distance between each other was quite good. Messy Ink Getting to book 2 by Ali Lida is a male romance. But both men have kind of got a lot going on. One has got a mother who's quite ill and got financial issues. The other's got abandonment issues. Really beautiful story. Big Lies in a Small Town by Diane Chamberlain. About 2018, a girl wrongly convicted of a crime gets sent to go and restore an old mural. 1940, the young painter, who supposedly went mad, is telling her story about how she came to draw this mural type thing. Really emotional stories. I think the girl 1940, her mum died from a so my voice is really dying here. From a problem with her, I think undiagnosed bipolar, and I think possibly suicide, or I don't think it's mentioned particularly which one, I can't remember. This was like in June I read this. Obviously there were no black main characters here, but there was some, but like I think there was a real discussion about people were angry at this painter girl Anna because she was allowing a black boy to study with her and paint with her alongside the other white kids, because their schools were separated. So that was quite emotional. Going back. Good Girl's Guide to Murder and Good Girl Bad Blood series by Holly Jackson, a really good book. I found it really good. It's a kind of teenage podcast maker who's doing a kind of murder mystery project, and kind of by book 2 she's kind of got like some PTSD stuff going on, and it's quite good, but I was a bit like, whoa, it's getting emotional. Time of Our Lives by Emily Wimberly. Boy whose mother's got onset Alzheimer's. Girl who's part of a big Mexican family, so she's kind of expected to look after everybody, even though she just wants to go have an adventure herself. Both go on the tours across the country to universities. Girl can't wait to go to university as far as she can get away from home. Boy doesn't even want to go because his mum might get symptoms of Alzheimer's at some point. They meet and kind of learn from each other. I was emotional. I think I cried. The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. Amazing book. I love this book. Definitely loss of husband again. I think there's a few themes of books I read this year that weren't intentional, but I have learned a lot about certain types of storyline, which I think is quite interesting to learn about. And obviously reading about certain topics, it's good to understand points of view based on these things. So yeah, this one was really good. About a girl, she lost her fiance in a car crash. She's dealing with the loss of him and kind of trying to move on and struggling with it, and slight bit of magical realism, which I quite liked, which was quite good. And I think that is it. No, it's not. Look by Zan Romanov is about a girl. She is kind of bisexual, but doesn't necessarily say she's bisexual. She's got a boyfriend, and yet because she's so famous on social media, when she kisses a girl, there is a photo. She accidentally films herself. She meant to film herself for her boyfriend. She filmed it for the whole world, basically, and she's now dealing with her sexuality. Her boyfriend left her. She's kind of got a few family things going on, a few friendship things going on, and also it's also about really discusses the whole topic of like, okay, when you post things on social media, it's kind of out there. Anyone can use it. Anyone can try and use you because of it. And that's quite an interesting discussion, which is really interesting in this modern age. Old Fashioned, Becca Brothers Book 4 by Candy Steiner. The woman in this has an abusive ex-husband, so that was quite an emotional storyline. And also, the boy or the guy, Jordan, he's a sports teacher. Sydney, she's like a sports massager for the football team. And Jordan is a mixed race son of mixed race boy, a guy who's been adopted into a white family. So he's dealing with his birth and where he came from, and she's dealing with being a single mum of a 9-year-old girl who, she was abused by her ex-husband. Most Likely by Sarah Watson is about 4 girls, one of whom will become president, and the diversity in this is really good. So we have a disability representation. There's a boy who's in a wheelchair. We have a girl with depression who's also another character who's been adopted. She's a Latina. She's from, I think, Mexican heritage, and her mum, her adopted mother is white, and she's in a white community. Someone who's a lesbian. A few different storylines here, but it was very good. Look at the Willow's Weep by Sherry Parnell, kind of like, again, a bit of a historical type thing. Back in the 50s or 60s, a girl loses her father to a mining accident, and there's a few different storylines going on where she's kind of like growing up. She's got issues with her mum, issues with her brothers, trying to figure out who she is really in the world. Quite emotional. Even If It Hurts by Marnie Mann. It's about this girl called Chloe. She goes to her exchange to do like a business internship for 6 months in London. She's from Boston. She's like, oh, you know what, I'm going to go and do my thing in London. First day she gets there, meets this guy called Oliver. She can't even focus on her first opening her laptop because she's so like, oh, I can't stop looking at him, he can't stop looking at me. And I'm just like, God, he's just a random guy behind you in class. Like, just sit down. It's your first day of class, do your work. She falls for him. He falls for her. She has to leave England. She gets married. And then she's kind of got the situation of, like, at some point, he walks back into her life. Oliver walks back into her life, the English guy. And she goes, who do I choose? And that kind of annoyed me because this Oliver guy, there's not much to his personality apart from he's English, he makes good pasta, and he's fun. I found him quite patronising on the fact that she was quite new to relationships. But the way she dealt with the grief of losing 2 parts of her life and leaving him, although obviously we didn't see much of their romance, she had to leave him to go back to America. And I kind of felt like, okay, there's not much chemistry between them. I don't think there is, but like, I don't see it. I don't like him. But the emotions she had to go through, I really felt that. And I believe that really is it. Going back to the start of this year. Yeah, that is it. Those are all the books, which is a lot of my books I read this year, which I found emotional. I will now try to upload a couple of videos, including this one. Thank you for watching. Sorry for my ramblings and my horrible cold and the background noise and all of that. But I hope you found this interesting, at least a little bit.